everyone and welcome back. My people, this is unbelievable. You can't believe what Babajide said about Peter Obi on Tinubu'S television. I hope they are not going to sack this man, but the truth needs to be told. He just stated the obvious truth about Peter Obi, ATIKU, as well as 2027 election. You really need to hear this, my people. Just take a listen.
Now, looking at Peter Obi and his recent, frolicking with other politicians in other parties, especially talking about coalition, etc., and some of the rhetoric he's been making on the social media, Buhari's funeral attendance or non-attendance or non-showing, etc. To kick off our conversation or discussion, how much of Peter Obi's recent antics and strategies and his high-profile campaign rhetoric can be seen as genuine leadership versus calculated political gimmicks to energize his base and outmaneuver rivals like ATIKU within the coalition?
Everything that Peter Obi is doing is calculated to position him as the biggest opposition figure in our country currently. The kind of social media following and attention that he gets dwarfs the attention and the following that Atiku Abubakar gets. Obi does very well on social media, much better than most of our politicians. And this is a very big weapon in his hands to shape the narrative as we move closer and closer, inevitably, to the 2027 presidential race. It is a marathon, not a sprint. But Peter Obi is showing his staying power. From the time when the results of the 2023 election, presidential election, was announced, he has stayed the course. He has remained focused. He has done his best to continually be not just in the faces of the Nigerian people, but in their consciousness and on the pages of newspapers and even on TV and on radio. He ensures that his sound bites continue to drive conversations around how our country can get better, continue to energize his base. If he had simply resigned to fate after losing the election, today no one will be talking about Peter Obi. But you can see that by his going up and down in the country, in our country, going to places where people lost their lives and all that, he's trying to show that he's a capable alternative to the current president. That is his goal, trying to get Nigerians to see him as capable of doing a good job as a president. Whether this is truly the case is not really the issue. Today, we are talking about what the moves that he's making. Every move is calculated. Every move is designed to achieve an aim. Every move that Peter Obi is making at this time is meant to show that, yes, I'm still a force to reckon with politically. I'm still the veritable alternative to the government of the, to the current president, and that he can form a government that can do a much better job of running our country. So he knows what he's doing, and like a shrewd businessman, he's making some calculated moves that I can see through some of what he's doing. I can predict with accuracy what those moves would deliver in the final analysis. many people thought that Peter Obi would simply go gung-ho into the ADC, but he's been reluctant to defect from his party into the ADC, despite receiving an ultimatum to to leave the party. An ultimatum came from Abure and Co. that he should leave the party. This and that. But Peter Obi is not interested in putting his eggs in one basket, because once you leave that party, you move into another party. Whatever fate, and we are still a little less than 2 years away from the election. Whatever fate befalls you in your new party, people will not show sympathy. They will believe that, well, it's a decision that you took on your own, so you have to live with the consequences of that decision. He is not prepared to take that decision now, and it doesn't seem like he even wants to leave the Labour Party. Because, let's face it, ATIKU Abubakar cannot spend his money bringing people together for the purpose of using a new platform to contest against President Ahmed Tinubu. And then people will expect that he will hand over the presidential ticket of the coalition that he galvanized, of a coalition that he made wiped. It's not going to happen. ATIKU, if they do a primary election today in that new party, ATIKU will dominate any other presidential aspirant. And I think that reality has dawned on Monsieur Peter Obi, so he is not prepared to launch fully into the ADC. He believes that it's better he remains in the Labour Party now and continue to watch events as they go on. If it is absolutely necessary, he may launch into the ADC. But at this stage, I do not see any sign that he wants to leave the Labour Party. I think he is convinced that at some point, the Labour Party crisis will be resolved in the favor of the Nenadi Usman-led caretaker committee, which Governor Oti and himself helped to put together. So, and he believes that in the party that gave him the ticket that last time, he still retains quite a lot of support in that party, and to him, that party will best serve his interest than to go into ADC, where, as I've said before, if a primary election is held today or even next year, without a shadow of a doubt, I am certain that ATIKU will clinch that presidential ticket. And the question then is, will Peter Obi be willing to play second fiddle to ATIKU Abubakar? I think Peter Obi is a man who doesn't diminish himself, who doesn't see himself as inferior to anyone. The other day I heard him saying that I'm going to contest the presidential election and I'm the best. So he's already seen himself as better than ATIKU. So with this mindset, he will not want to find himself in a situation in which he's going to be contesting on the same ticket with ATIKU as ATIKU's deputy. So he's not prepared for that. And a lot of his supporters are saying, look, if it is the deputy, it is the vice presidential slot that Peter Obi will be given, then it's better they go and support Bola Ahmed Tinubu. It's better that Bola Ahmed Tinubu continue. So many of his supporters think that, look, the South needs to spend 8 years the same way they not spend 8 years through the late Muhammadu Buhari. So they are not going to entertain any desire to put Peter Obi on the ticket as deputy to ATIKU. Don't forget, after the 2023 election, many of Peter Obi's supporters have been saying that he won that election. They've been telling themselves and trying to convince Nigerians that it was Peter Obi that won that election. And when you tell them that that couldn't have happened, that was not the case, without evidence, they will continue to insist that he won the election. So, given the way that they are thinking, they believe that a Peter Obi can defeat an ATIKU in a general election. So, since they are thinking that they won the 2023 election, nobody should be surprised that Peter Obi believes that it has to be him or no one. So, whatever the platform that is going to use, Peter Obi's supporters, the obedient movement, will not tolerate giving Peter Obi the vice presidential ticket. It has to be the presidential ticket. It has to be the presidential ticket or nothing. Because, as I said earlier, they still harbor the notion that they won that election. So, if they still harbor the notion that they won that last election, that they defeated Tinubu, ATIKU, Kwankwaso, and others, nobody should be surprised that for 2027, they believe that the conditions are much better for Peter Obi to triumph in that election. Peter Obi, whichever way we look at it, I'm not his fan, but he's one of the very impactful political leaders of the last few years. No doubt about it. And don't forget, he changed our electoral jurisprudence forever, because he went to court to challenge the victory of Chris Ngige, and the court declared that he was the rightful winner of that election. He didn't stop there. He went to the court and sought clarification about his tenure. And again, the matter was decided in his favor. That is how the idea of upcycle elections began. Because the judiciary then ruled that he has to spend all of the time that the Constitution gives him the mandate to spend. So all of the time that Chris Ngige has spent as an illegal governor, those times were then brushed aside, in inverted commas, and he began his own full 8 years. Otherwise, if somebody had spent 3 years in office illegally, having rigged an election, and you won at the Supreme Court, if it's 1 year that is left of that mandate that was stolen, it is just that 1 year that you are going to spend as a governor who had been sworn in. That is usually what happens in the National Assembly. Some of the battles for seats in the National Assembly, post-election battles, usually last more than 2 years. And people will come, just spend those last 2 years. But in the case of governors, Peter Obi successfully contested that, and ultimately he won, so was able to spend his 8 full years. And that's how the idea of upcycle elections began in our country. Every body who wins in court after his election was rigged, everyone who wins in court gets to start afresh, gets to enjoy his full mandate by way of the number of days that he should spend in office. So Peter Obi is not someone that we should underrate. I know how a lot of his supporters think, and Peter Obi believes, and his supporters to believe that this time around he can do much better in the north central states than he did in 2023. Remember, he won 2 states of the out of 6 in the north central. He won Nasarawa, he won Plateau. This time around, his supporters think he can add 2 more states. That is Kogi and Benue. You know, he has made a lot of trips to Benue in recent times, usually to commiserate with the people. When there is flooding, he goes there to greet them. He was even shown riding in a canoe. All of the canoe, you know, after a flood disaster, all of those actions are meant to trigger a reaction. And those actions are meant to show that, look, I am a good alternative to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So, and apart from, they believe that between the southeast and north central states, he can get 9 states. They believe that he can dominate the south states, including Edo, Delta, the rest of them. They believe he can dominate those states in the election. They believe he can still win Lagos State in the presidential election. So this is the way they are thinking. And he knows that at this time, Governor Oti, the sole governor from his party, has not taken the plunge into ADC. He too is biding his time. He's waiting for the opportune moment. And as I've said, it makes no sense to underrate Peter Obi at this time. In 2019, his party, the Labour Party, scored 5,074 votes in the entire country. The coming of Peter Obi into Labour Party in 2022 saw a surge of support for the same Labour Party that won a paltry, that scored a paltry 5,074 votes. That party then recorded 25% of the votes in 2023, whereas in 2019, it recorded 0.02% of the total votes. So somebody who scored 5,074, a party that scored 5,074 votes in the presidential election, once Peter Obi got involved, scored 6 million plus votes. That is truly significant, and that is the Peter Obi effect for you. The worst that anyone can do is to underrate him and the impact he can have in the election. No one is saying, I'm not saying, for example, that he will win the election. I've not seen the signs, and it's even early days. I usually don't predict about 2 years to an election. I like to predict like 1 week to an election, because things can change rapidly in the Nigerian political ecosystem. So, but I'm saying that now that Peter Obi has prepared himself for that political stage and is looking inevitably like the biggest opposition figure in our country, the one that is always in the news, the one that people are always talking about. You know, so you can see when they didn't see him in Daura, people were talking about it, but he was not the only person who didn't go on that day. So that's to tell you that as a newsmaker is someone who is getting the attention just the way he had always wanted it. He wants to be the factor in our opposition for politics, and I can tell you that with every passing day, he's cementing his stature as the big factor in the opposition politics of our country.
That's right. So now, looking at ATIKU Abubakar, is 78-year-old, and is seen by some as a perennial candidate whose multiple unsuccessful presidential runs and northern background may clash with southern sentiments that the presidency should remain in the south until 2031. Critics argue that this could alienate voters and weaken the coalition's appeal. Do you think Atiku's insistence on potentially leading the ADC ticket risk undermining the coalition's viability, especially given the regional zoning expectations and its history of corruption allegations, even if denied?
I think if I were in Atiku's shoes, I would throw my weight behind Peter Obi, or a younger opponent, maybe a Kwankwaso. Nigeria is not in short of people who can get that job done. Younger people who can get the job done. So it makes sense to give the young people a chance. And Peter Obi, of all those people that we are talking about, Peter Obi is the person who was born after Nigeria's independence. So he's younger when you compare him to Atiku Abubakar, Bola Tinubu, and the rest of them. So Atiku's best bet is to support a southern candidate. There is no need for this obsession for the presidency by Atiku Abubakar. It is God that prepares people for leadership. It is God that enthrones people. Maybe it's not his destiny to be president of Nigeria. Because if it was his destiny, Atiku will have been president since 2003. The year 2003, he will have become the president of Nigeria. And then he refused to contest against his principal, despite the fact that governors and other people were rooting for him, governors from the ruling party. They were tired of Obasanjo. They pleaded with Atiku to contest that they were going to back him. Of course, Obasanjo begged Atiku repeatedly because he knew that they had him by the jugular. So he convinced Atiku to not run against him. And Atiku decided to listen to Ebora Owu. And at the end of the day, he didn't contest, but he didn't enjoy that second term because it was one problem after another. So the point that I'm making is Atiku's obsession with contesting the presidency. This one will be the 7th time if he decides to contest, because there is still time, as I said, for anything to happen. If he decides to contest, it will be the 7th time that he contested the presidency of our country. He started contesting in 1993 from the primaries of the SDP, in Jos. But he didn't carry the day. It was MK Abiola that carried the day. So after that, he's taking part in primaries, lost some primaries, won some primaries, and then lost the presidential election a number of times. He has had to defect from the PDP 3 times, all because of his desire to achieve his aim of becoming the president of Nigeria. So that is a real obsession. To have defected 3 times from your own from PDP speaks volumes about his desire to be president of our country,
and desperation,
about his obsession with becoming president of our country. So usually when things don't go his way, he then, especially from his party, he then moves to another party. So as I said before, his best bet is to support a younger candidate who would steer the ship of the country. That's the best bet. We don't need to have this gerontocratic fixation in our country. We don't need it. We don't need the gerontocratic fixation.
Yeah, that's right. Let's take some comments. Chinwe Okonkwo says Peter Obi is playing 4D chairs, leaving the Labour Party for ADC and teaming up with ATIKU shows he's serious about uniting the opposition. His obedient movement will carry him to Aso Rock in 2027. Tinubu should be worried. We're not sure yet whether he's still a member of the Labour Party the last time I checked. For me, Adebayo says, I'm an obedient from Lagos and I'm all in for Peter Obi, but this ADC frolicking feels like a gamble. If Atiku hijacked the ticket, Obi supporters will scatter. Why not stay with Labour Party and build on 2023's momentum? Aisha Bello says, all this noise about Obi and Atiku is just drama. Tinubu has the governors, the money, and INEC in his pocket. ADC has no structure to win. Obi's bold moves are just hype for his fans. I would like you to answer a question relating to that later on. What Tunde Alabi says, Peter Obi is a breath of fresh air. But let's be real, Atiku's money and northern connections will dominate this ADC coalition. Obi risks being used as a pawn. Southerners won't forgive him if it takes VP again. And talking about the VP thing, Peter Obi supporters have consistently opposed him taking a vice presidential role, which you also alluded to a little earlier, with activists like Aisha Yusufu vowing to campaign against him if he does. This pressure could force Obi to compete against Atiku in the primary, potentially splitting the coalition. But then, how do you think ADC can navigate the challenge of balancing Peter Obi's independent-minded, obedient base with Atiku's traditional political networks? And what safeguards might they need to ensure a fair primary process that avoids perceptions of financial manipulation?
I think from what I see, what Peter Obi is trying to do is to just hang on and see whether he had in the election. He just turned Nigeria believe that 8 years, the Southern president should spend 8 years. That the South should spend 8 years, the same way that they not spent 8 years. So, as far as they are concerned, it is either Peter Obi or someone else from the South. Atiku risk losing a substantial portion of his support base in southern Nigeria by his insistence on contesting rather than backing someone else. Because for a good number of the people, they not spent 8 years, the South should be allowed to spend 8 years as well, And Peter Obi has positioned himself to spend, even if it's 4 years, although such a thing can be tricky. He could get there and after 4 years insist that he's going nowhere. So I think, yes, he made an offer to spend 4 years. They said he will solve the problem in 4 years. You and I know the problems of Nigeria cannot be addressed in 4 years, but that was a pledge that I made. So it's up to the ADC folks to believe him and give him an opportunity to have a shot at the presidency in 2027. But as Bode George said, we need to unite our country the best way that we can. And that if the white people in 1914 came up with the amalgamation of the northern and southern provinces to make us one, then power should be rotated between the north and the south. So that is the thinking of many people, and that is where a lot of them disagree with Peter Obi. And for a politician to be defecting, it's not defecting like 3 times from one party. I mean, it's not it's surreal. It's not something that we hear or see all the time. It's quite unusual, and it's all because of his obsession for the presidency. If they not today, especially those of them ADC, will come out to say, look, we're backing Peter Obi. Honestly, it will make a big difference. But I don't think that is going to happen. At least at this stage, I do not see any sign that that is likely to happen. Because ATIKU Abubakar believes that it is his destiny to be president of Nigeria, even for one day. And is pushing hard to ensure that that happens. And for this reason, a lot of people just believe that the ADC, the leading lights of the ADC are just people greedy for power, including people like people like Rotimi Amechi, Malami, and the rest of them. Just people greedy for power. That's the way people see them, especially since ATIKU and Rotimi in that mix. They believe that it's just power that they are after and not the development of our country.
That's right. With the politics of things going on, I think I want to believe that one of them, especially between Obi and ATIKU, one of them is playing what they call Russian roulette. So just putting their.
I think he believes that it serves his purpose to remain where he is.
Yeah.
And if in the fullness of time the courts rule that his faction of the Labour Party is the mainstream Labour Party, is the authentic Labour Party faction, then everything will bode well for him. He doesn't need to join the coalition because he knows that there's no guarantee that he will get a ticket in the ADC. There's no guarantee at all. Somebody cannot use his clout, use his resources to form a party only to surrender the presidential ticket to you. It's not likely to happen. Yeah. So that's why he's staying put. He's staying put and Labour Party at this time.
So my people, that is it. I hope you heard everything that he said here, which I told you before that he just stated the obvious truth about Peter Obi. Like Peter Obi is making wave. As of today, in Nigeria politics, you cannot underestimate Peter Obi. Yes, everybody is talking about Peter Obi, and it is now obvious that this particular opposition coalition was formed just for ATIKU. So Peter Obi is like, he just wasting his time. So it is better that Peter Obi start looking for a platform, like a party that he needs to contest the presidential election in 2027. But it's going to be like sad that this particular opposition, like they don't want to give presidential ticket to a Southerner. Instead, they want to take power back to the North. And they always say this, that without the Northerners, like a Southerner cannot win. So without the Southerners as well, a Northerner cannot win the election, right? Anyway, my people, I say, I bring this update to you guys. I hope you truly enjoy watching anyway. Do well to subscribe, share the video, and also leave your thoughts in the comment section. I will see you guys in my next update. Goodbye for now.